Okay. So hello everyone, welcome. Hi Solomon.
Anton, could I go ahead
Yes.
and start the recording? Yeah, I think
Recording in progress.
Hi everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are still getting people in, so we're just going to wait for a few minutes. But in the meantime, let me introduce myself. I'm Rashi Saxena. I am the scientific committee member and national strategic partner for We the Internet in India. A very warm welcome. Just a few housekeeping rules. We would be recording this particular session. And if you can use a pseudonym if you want, you can also switch off your cameras. And we're also trying to do this dialogue in 3 different languages. So we encourage you to introduce yourselves in the chat and also tell us your preferred mode of language for the activity session.
Thank you, Rashi. I see that people are coming in. Yeah, maybe wait 2 to 3 more minutes for people to join, and then we will we'll start. But in the meantime, what we can do is each of us write a sentence to present oneself and put it in the chat, so we can have that kind of dynamic presentation and have everyone saying hello. So let's go. Let's start that exercise.
Lawrence, if you could also give your preference of which language you would want your activity in, that would be great. That way we could just keep, record of what you want, because we plan to carry out this in French, Spanish, and English. Those are the 3 modes. Hi, Clara, welcome. French is good, English is good. Okay.
All right, sure. They actually informed me that there's no available promotion for.
Which I think we should wait for another 2 minutes and then have everyone else join in.
Yes, we do have those extra 2 minutes allocated for people to come in, to introduce themselves, and to be able to feel comfortable in the room.
Okay, so as a waiting exercise, could you write in the chat how much degrees in Celsius you have at the place you are? I see John with a t-shirt. I see Jean-François in a room, but I don't know how many degrees. I see your ventilator is not on, so maybe it's still not too warm. We have a tree, Manon and I, but I'm not gonna tell you. Yes, I'm going to write you how much degrees we have. I have to look. I'm also inside. Okay, now I know. So it's 8 degrees Celsius in Berlin, Malaysia 28, 23 in Lisbon. Paris is rainy.
For those who just joining us, we are asking everyone to introduce yourself on the chat and to also give us your preference in terms of language so we can accommodate for the breakout rooms. Thank you.
And we also have Eileen joining. Eileen is also part of the preparation team. Hi, Katie.
We do have a few other people joining in. Maybe.
Yes, I see that. It's the people that were catching a coffee between 2 sessions, as you normally do in a conference.
To those who just joined in, if you could introduce yourselves on the chat. We're planning to do our breakout activity in 3 different languages, that's Spanish, French, and English. So if you could let us know what your preference is, and we will accommodate you. Antoine, I think you should go ahead with.
I wanted to say exactly that. So thank you everyone for being there. Thank you for the time that we're going to bring together and for that weather report. I'm sure if we could connect that to artificial intelligence, we could beat the weather channel. And artificial intelligence is going to be our topic today. But not only, it is going to be connected to the question of collective intelligence. I will now share my screen, and we have some elements of presentation. So the topic for today is regulating artificial intelligence with collective intelligence. And this session has been prepared by the Innovation for Policy Foundation, the IO Foundation, INTO, Internet Society, the chapter in Argentina, and the youth, so that's Aileen from the Youth Observatory, and with the support of Mission Publique. Our agenda for today is that we are going to present the team. That's going to be quick, and the participants, we already started that. We then present some key results on artificial intelligence from the Global Citizens Dialogue on the Future of Internet, and then we go in a discussion, and that is, then we convene back in plenary. For the participants and team, so participants, we have had that in the chat. For the team, I am Antoine. I will be taking over the main moderation today. And I'd like to pass rapidly the microphone to, so Rashi, you already presented yourself, but maybe you start again, as you are also from the core team, and then pass over to the other from the team.
I'm going to keep it short. Hi, everyone. My name is Rashi. I'm the National Strategic Partner from India and also the Scientific Committee member for the Internet Dialogue. And I pass it over to John from TIOF.
Hi everyone, my name is Jean-François. I go by John, makes everybody's life simpler. I manage an organization called the IO Foundation, whose advocacy is data-centric digital rights, and we are the national implementing partner for Malaysia, Philippines, and Timor-Leste for the We the Internet. And I will pass it to my coeternus John from Rwanda. John, up to you.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm very delighted to be here with you all. My name is John Stever. I'm with the Innovation for Policy Foundation, and we are the national partner for Rwanda, working together with Rashi on the scientific committee. I guess then I'll pass over to Eileen.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. My name is Eileen. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from Argentina, so I have been organizing the Global Citizens Dialogue in my country. I'm also part of the Youth Coalition Internet Governance and the Youth SIG, which is the Youth Special Interest Group for Internet Society. And now I'm passing the floor to Rash.
Okay, we'll take over here because Rashi already presented herself, and I go rapidly to Manon and Maria, and then we can start.
Hi everyone, good afternoon or good morning, depending on which side of the world you are. So I'm Manon. I was part also of the global coordination team for With the Internet. So working also with Antoine and Maria that I'm going to give the floor to.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria from Paris here, and I'm working also with Antoine and Manon at Mission Publique, and I'm very happy to be here.
So thank you very much. Thank you everyone. I now go over, that's the team. So now you know us. And a word on the vision. So the vision is how do we test, improve, and institutionalize internet governance with and for the citizens. We have seen at Mission Publique that there is a gap between a multi-stakeholder model of governance for internet, the global dimension of internet, and the way it is governed and decisions are taken on the future of the internet. And we're thinking, okay, we need to bridge that gap. And how do we do that? We do that with deliberative democracy and deliberative methods of citizens' engagement, and that's why we wanted to work on the future of internet. How to do that? We launched in 2017 a project that we called We the Internet, and We the Internet has 3 pillars. The first one is that we have deliberations, meaning groups of citizens, ordinary citizens, that gather and meet and discuss on key questions on the future of the internet. But they don't do that purely randomly. They do that because they go through a process of structured discussion, which is based on information and a discussion. And then they formulate their preferences, they prioritize their views, and these results are what we call the informed views of citizens. And then the third pillar is, once we have those results, we take them to decision makers, and we try to make sure that they have an impact on the discussion. So that's how we imagine the kind of process that could improve internet governance to make it more inclusive with citizens of the world. In 2020, we managed to deploy such a citizens and stakeholders dialogue, so a two-leg system, in over 80 countries of the world. For the citizens dialogue, it was 70 plus countries. For the stakeholders dialogue, we had people from around 80 countries, and we had over 5,000 participants. And as Jean-François, John, and Aileen and Rashi have said, we had in all those countries a national partner, a strategic partner in the country, in charge of implementing the dialogue at the national level. We had different topics that we tackled with this dialogue. The first one was on the future of, was the vision of internet for citizens. The second topic was on the question of data and data governance. The third topic was about disinformation. The fourth topic was about artificial intelligence. And the fifth topic was about the future of internet governance. Today, we are going to present you some key results on artificial intelligence. So as we do such processes, citizens give a feedback in terms of qualitative elements and quantitative elements. So, and they also give vision as individuals, but also as groups of people, because they discuss in groups at tables, or this last year also online. But the idea is that they are building a view between themselves. It's not completely individual. It's a mix of what people think and what people discuss and manage to get as a common vision. So as part of the results, what we see is that for each of those large topics I mentioned, there is a vision which is emerging from the results from all over the world. For the question of artificial intelligence, the interesting thing about that vision is that citizens considered that their knowledge and understanding of artificial intelligence was not enough to have a really informed discussion and to really be able to take decisions, to take recommendations, or to formulate strong recommendations. At the same time, they also thought and articulated the fact that for them, other stakeholders, companies, governments, have the same limitations. So one of the main results of the dialogue in terms of qualitative results is that what they saw is the necessity to discuss more that topic and to discuss the question of governance of artificial intelligence. That's for the vision. Now I will show you that. I will comment it, of course. So during the dialogue, we asked them to rank different scenarios for different use cases of artificial intelligence. And we asked them to position themselves on one side. So this is the left side of what you see on that picture. We asked them, okay, is this scenario use case more a threat or more an opportunity? So let's take the first one. On one side, they had the possibility to go on the side of artificial intelligence will bring advances in science and research that are not worth the huge investment needed. So we should invest the money elsewhere. So that's a scenario. On the other side, AI brings a lot of breakthrough in science and research that benefits humanity. And citizens had to position themselves on what they thought would be the balance. As you see, the main results of that is that the gray part in the middle is more or less a quarter of the percentage of the positioning of the people. So what people tell us with that is that for them, there is no inherent beneficial or harmful effect of artificial intelligence in the different use cases. They really see artificial intelligence as being a technology that can be steered and governed and can go either way, on the positive or the negative side. So that's a very important message for us today and the discussion we are going to have, because we are going to talk about governance of artificial intelligence. And the message is, yes, people see that there is a need for governance and that it can be steered and that there's no inherent harmful or very positive scenario out there. Another thing that is maybe interesting is that citizens strongly showed that for them, artificial intelligence is one of the topic where they see the strongest need for a global governance structure, much more than on data or on disinformation. That's interesting because they see artificial intelligence as a global challenge. Now, let's focus some key results on the countries that we have today here as national partners. So I'm sorry for the quality of the extraction of the images. We can rework them later, but if we take Argentina, and we are going to take one question. What is interesting is that we asked citizens to tell us if they see artificial intelligence more as an opportunity than a threat, more a threat than an opportunity, or equally, or if they had no opinion on that. And huge majority of citizens in all countries say that they see that as equally an opportunity and a threat. So that's for Argentina, but the same goes for Philippines, for Rwanda, where you see that here maybe the opportunity is taking over. So maybe John, you'll have to comment why citizens in Rwanda were more positive than in other places in the world. And in India, it's equally an opportunity and a threat, and more an opportunity. So maybe here you want to comment that result. In Timor-Leste, we have also that kind of results shared between the two. And I think that's it for that short presentation. So now I'd like to have some comments coming from the countries before we go in the breakout rooms to work on the next step of our discussion.
Antoine, in fact, I'm not sure if we have time for the comments. I think we should go because it's going to be a 40-minute activity. And we also have new people who just joined in. Yeah,
so I will start. I can start the breakout. Just a hint. So we saw on the chat.
Actually, I just wanted to check. We had two other people who just joined in. Could you all introduce yourself and let us know any preferred language, if possible, if there's anyone?
You can write on the chat as well.
There was just one person who did mention to us that they would prefer it in French.
Yeah.
There were, if I'm not wrong, there would be two people who expressed that they could choose French, although they would also be able to participate in English. And from analyzing the poll, I would say that we can safely move into English, as we have been discussing internally in the past minutes, and that should be serving for everyone. And if there's any need to translate any of the terms during the sessions, of course, we're going to be available for that.
Sure. So let's have 3 groups all in English. Okay.
Yes. And if there's anyone who still wants it in a different language, please raise your hand right now. We will see if we can accommodate you. I do know one person who had texted me and reached out to me.
Okay, so I will start the subgroup, and Antoine will stay also in plenary. So if you have any issue or if you are disconnected, you can always come back to this link, and he will be there to put you in the right group. Let's start, and see you in 40 minutes.
Okay.
Donc juste Antoine, j'attends que tout le monde soit un peu parti et je te mets modérateur.
Ok, ça marche.
Faut que tu me mettes co-modérateur par contre, du coup, sinon moi je vais perdre le statut de...
Ah oui.
Et après je vais rejoindre Maria.
Can we make sure that Bruce, Kai and Thomas also get a breakout room?
Sure. I can affect them or... yeah, I will affect them. It's easier.
Hi, Thomas. Yeah, we can read Thomas just.
So they have to click on the subgroups.
Yeah.
Antoine, I
Let's-
put you main moderator.
OK.
Hop. Est-ce que tu peux mettre...
Sarah, non, plus maintenant. Il faut jamais faire ça.
Faut jamais faire quoi? Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait?
Lâcher le pouvoir.
Ah, pardon. Tu peux changer les subgroupes, vas-y. Fais-toi plaisir.
Ah oui, tiens, là, OK, tac, OK. C'est bon?
Et ouais, nickel. Et moi, je vais rejoindre Maria avant que...
Allez,
que
à
la
tout de
LED.
suite.
À tout de suite. Et tu nous enlèves dans 40 minutes, du coup.
40 minutes, donc ouais, enfin j'ai vu que c'était 6.
University, and I'm completing a PhD at the University of Toronto. So I'm based in the Greater Toronto area in Canada.
Thanks for joining us, Sushneesh. Must be early in the morning, right? Since the ones who are from Toronto.
11 a.m. It's a good time.
It's a good time. Okay. Then we have Kai. Kai, can
Hi,
you hear us?
Yes, hello. Hope it's working. Yeah, my name's Kay. I'm joining from Germany. I'm an experienced designer working in the ad tech sector. Sorry for joining a little bit late. I think I just hopped in right before you brought us into different rooms. So I think I will slowly pick up from,
That's
from the
not a problem
conversation.
at all. No, that's not a problem at all. You're on time. And then John, do you want to go and introduce yourself? Maybe you can try with the camera.
Okay, well, let's see if this works. Hi, everyone. My name is John. I introduced myself in the main room. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Global Citizen Dialogue for the last 2 years in Rwanda. And we actually organized a sort of longer session on artificial intelligence in Rwanda because it was feeding into the development of a national artificial intelligence policy in Rwanda. And yeah, super happy to be here. I'm joining you guys all from South Sinai.
Actually, a lot of the material that we are using for the activity is inspired by what IFE policy, that's John's team, along with Future Society, has implemented. Just let me to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to go jump in right into the session because we don't have time. I'm actually going to paste the Miro board. I'm just going to check where we are. So we're there with that. And are you all? Is everyone using a desktop? Andy's actually from the tech team. Yeah, from Mozilla. So Andy is always here. Okay. Everyone's through a desktop, right? Including Kai?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to be using Miro. Just wanted to check. I'm just going to go. Great. Okay. I just want to see who's there, who isn't there. Because then otherwise what I could also do is I could also share my screen. That's also something that I could do. If you want me to.
It would be great if you could share the link anyway.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Great. I'm also going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Like, just give me a heads up. Yeah. Okay, fine. So we have three. Actually, John, you're going to explain this now since this is yours. Go ahead. I mean, if you want, like, just give as to what was the thought process behind this. We haven't taken all aspects. I think perhaps maybe the banking scenario is the one that's very similar to what you did, but everything else is a little different. But go ahead, you can go behind the methodology aspect, and then I can check.
Okay, I mean, like really, the Future Society was largely responsible for putting this scenario idea together, and it was developed to really try and to gather thoughts from the sort of very representative sample of the population that we brought together for the national dialogue in Rwanda, and we organized more than 2 hours of discussion on artificial intelligence to be able to go through these scenarios as well as the UNESCO Rome principles, and yeah, so perhaps Rashi, you could take us through the
Yeah, so the whole idea is that y'all have a chance to look through the scenarios. We could have a lively discussion around it, or y'all could just work on it in silos. I could read out the scenario, and then we have 2 guiding questions for each scenario. So we have one scenario with deepfakes, we have one scenario with mental health, and we have one banking scenario. And they have 2 primary questions, which I'm just expanding on, as to what are the key AI ethical issues that are raised by this particular scenario, and then what are some of the solutions or recommendations to the AI ethical issues identified. So yeah, I mean, I could go either way, and we could have like just a round robin discussion here, and you could also use the sticky notes and just paste your suggestions. Let me know what way you want to go.
I guess I would love to hear what people's thoughts are. And maybe because the Miro gets it's a lot of content, and I'd like to hear what people have to say first, if that would be.
Okay, so then what I could do is that I could also, wait 1 second. There's one thing that I forgot. I need to start the recording for this. That's okay. It's already recorded. Andy, is this already recorded, or do we have to enable recording?
Breakout rooms are not usually recorded, but if it's going to be recorded, then I'm going to go off video.
Okay, no, that's fine. I think they are. I'm not too sure about this, but I'm ready to take notes. And if everyone is okay with Brenna, then I could just go ahead and read the scenarios and then listen to everyone's discussions. I'm happy to do that. Is everyone okay with that? Ushni, Shlara, Kai? Okay, great. Let me go ahead. So we'll start with the banking scenario where which is similar to what the Rwanda team went ahead with. So we go with Yolanda is a university student majoring on data science with excellent grades. To pay her tuition, she works as a waitress at a restaurant on weekends, and due to the pandemic and COVID-19 lockdown, her earnings have been reduced and she's concerned about running out of money. Her only option seems to be seeking for a loan. Coincidentally, she receives an SMS from her bank offering a loan facility. She's amazed to find that this pre-approved loan is exactly what she's looking for. And she clicks on the link, accepts the loan through an app, and finds the money in her bank account an hour later. Her bank has developed a credit scoring model that utilizes AI, harnessing data about account activity, degree course, and grades, enables the bank to automatically select students for pre-approved loans. The speed and efficiency of processing these loans has increased the bank's profit and improved customer satisfaction. Meanwhile, Yolanda's friend John has been waiting for over a month to hear back from his bank about a paper-based loan application that took hours to complete. And on hearing about Sandra's positive response experience, John decides to switch banks. So that's the banking scenario. We also have that in French and Spanish if anyone's interested in reading. But I'd like to go ahead and keep these questions here, and yeah, feel free. You can to populate and to speak up. I'm ready. What do you think are the key AI ethical issues raised by this particular scenario?
So I can maybe start us off. So when I read that the credit scoring algorithm is based on grades, that my alarm bells go off. So in one sense, I think credit scoring information should purely be based on credit information. But, I'm sure some people will argue that people with good grades get good jobs and are, lower credit risks and so on, right? But that great information is housed at a different institution, at an educational institution, and you can argue that it should be kept completely independent. So I think that use of grade and academic information for loans is a major ethical issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess in relation to that, just the very notion that a lot of data that she's probably data about her activities in the internet, on the internet more broadly, is being harvested to, create this model. And she's clearly not aware of it. She's not aware that this is happening at all, considering that she's really surprised that the bank knew so much that, it's almost like a surprise that she receives the offer for the loan.
Okay. Anyone wants to go next? Brenna or Kai? Anyone?
I think that the silo of the institutions, like Ushnish, I hope I'm saying correct, raised is, I think, key. And then also kind of the tracking that's probably, the word coincidentally is what sticks out to me. And so I'm always like, are there coincidences when AI is involved? If there are, then that would be kind of funny. But so yeah. And then I guess I think that there's the two main areas. I'd be curious to know what happens to John if he gets upped in the queue because he says Sandra told him about it, and if that has anything to do. So if you're then it's sort of like a pyramid scheme of loans.
Do you think it's promoting a pyramid scheme of loans?
No, the end of the scenario kind of leads me what happens in the next chapter. So maybe John is oh, I'm switching banks. And then they're like, how did you learn about us? And he says his friend. And then that kind of gives that friend more cachet or clout, I don't know if that would happen, but that seems to be another area but that's the next scenario, chapter 2 of the banking.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Go ahead, Rishnish, go ahead.
I was going to say it doesn't explicitly say this in the scenario, but there's a little bit of a hint that those referrals matter in terms of if you make not just a verbal referral, but a referral through social media. Now that's trackable, right? And maybe the banks can track, successful loan applicants and who they refer the information to. And that becomes part of the scoring algorithm. It's not an explicit part of the scenario, but that you can see it going in that direction in terms of capturing social media referral data and using that as part of the credit scoring algorithm.
Great points.
I guess in the last sentence,
go ahead.
In the last sentence is meant to be on hearing about Yolanda positive experience, I suppose, rather than Sandra. Yeah. So I guess the ethical, maybe broader question is that obviously it's also the fact that with Yolanda not really understanding what's going on with the recommender system and the credit scoring model, she portrays the whole thing as a really good thing, and no wonder why John is up for it. And I think that's exactly what is happening anyway on a massive scale today, in terms of the lack of a sort of critical approach to the technologies that we are using every day.
Yeah,
but I think also the ethical thing is why is she even needing a loan for her education in the first place? In some ways that starts it off. And so I don't know, because I get what Clara's saying, but also the reality of many people's experiences is that she could very well be aware of all the stuff she's having to give over, but it's if you're going on food stamps, people know that they're given access to a lot of their life, but they need the food stamps. So that's the institution is the ethical at fault. I'm not disagreeing with Clara, but I'm just like, I mean, why does she need a loan? You know, and so like then it's more like, what's the relationship of the bank and the institution? You know, like maybe we don't know, but like in the United States, I mean, I went to a public university and it was 9% like funded by the state. It was known as the University of Nike, right? So like there's a lot of capital relationships that universities have that I think there's ethical questions, not just on the AI side. And I don't know if that's why I'm interested in the conversation is like, where do we line up? Like, this is the ethics of AI and the internet versus this is the ethics of capitalism and such.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Brenna.
I'm in complete
We haven't heard
agreement.
from Kai. Maybe Kai has something to say.
Maybe if we pronounce his name as K,
Sorry.
as he did.
Yes.
Are you with us, Kay?
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm just thinking from perspective that why friend John has been put in the situation that he has to wait for so long and still not hearing anything back from the bank. And is it because that it's been deprioritized in a way, so we're kind of excluding the group of people that might not have the most convenient access to I don't know, the data that they have been generating, or the digital bank services that they have been put out in the market? Or yeah, I'm just thinking in this direction. I don't really have an answer yet. Just maybe bring questions to the group.
That's okay. Maybe we could move on to the next one, and we still have 2 more scenarios and not too much time. So what do you think are some solutions or recommendations to the AI ethical issues that you all have been able to identify about? And we could go with Brenna, Clara, Shanish, whoever wants to go.
Clara, I also recognize that you sounded like you were trying to say something just before we switched over to Kay. So I'm wondering if you had another thought you wanted to throw out.
No, I wanted to just reply to Brenna to say that, yeah, I was in agreement in terms of, the root causes of, what we are talking about, and, questions around the way in which our global capitalist system fails to take care of people, and therefore how AI is really simply the sort of replication of that model in many ways.
Yeah.
That's it.
Could we go ahead with the next question? What do you think are some solutions or recommendations to the AI ethical issues identified?
Are we doing all 3 scenarios? Or I thought we were just doing 1, but are we doing all 3? Is that what you're wanting us to do with the time?
We could, I think we have time for 1 more, but if you want, I could read out the other 2, and then you want to do it as a collective. Is that what you want to do? I mean, I'm fine with whatever the group decides.
I don't know. I was just thinking like maybe the solutions are going to be a little overlapping, but maybe not. I don't know. You all are familiar with the scenarios. I
could go ahead and read out the scenarios. That's no problem. Okay, we could go with deepfake, and I could read out mental health, and then we could go with the questions, because we only have the questions are the same. So we have an elected politician whose primary PR strategy is to use social media to post information during the pandemic, and a hacker, an expert and machine learning and in AI machine learning, and former developer for a big tech company, decides to hack the politician's Twitter account and posts a video impersonating him. The video simulates a secret recording and showcases the politician making statements that immigrants are harming their country and should be expelled. The quality of software used reproduces on night of March 3rd, and by morning, over 5,000 residents gathered in the outskirts of a neighborhood inhabited predominantly by immigrants. So that's one scenario. And then the second scenario is mental health. Bart is a 17-year-old originally from Grand Fenwick, a town famous for their textile looms and frequent internet blockades. He's a full scholarship to study computer science at the University of Albonia. This would require him to move 5,000 miles away from the town to the cosmopolitan city of Albonia. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the strict lockdown restrictions, his university has decided to make all lectures online. But unlike his peers, decides to stay, as the unreliable internet in his hometown would significantly hamper his regular university schedule. The rigorous online engagements and lack of social gatherings have taken a massive toll on Bart's mental well-being and causes his grades to decline. One day, a friend of Bart's introduces him to an online community of safe, trusted resources for giving and receiving emotional support. The interface is governed by a chatbot powered by AI and proposes a sophisticated and mature set of safety measures informed by the experience of mental health professionals and aligned with online best practices for building safety into social environments that address the needs of vulnerable user populations at a fraction of the cost of any other available solution. So these are the three scenarios, and yes, over to you.
Just personally, I see the politician deepfake scenario bringing up more ethics issues than the mental health one, but it's also the harder one to solve. I think there's no easy solutions in the deepfake scenario.
Okay.
I think, jumping in, if you can. Yeah, I think it's really interesting and quite different from the other two scenarios. In some respect, I wonder, I mean, in terms of, yeah, I tend not to like to talk about solutions to very complex issues. And I think all of these are, in a sense, that it's not just about the potential and what deepfake does in and of itself, but also the complexities around people feeling like they can and play about with news in this way that have clearly significant real stake consequences for people and people's lives. But I think in some respects, some of the solutions should be also around helping people to somewhat identify. I mean, I know that one of the things about deep fakes is that it's really difficult to actually, they are so well made that they constitute a real problem from a law innovation perspective as well, in terms of how you even get people done for that. But I guess there is always, there are always skills that we can develop as humans in terms of assessing and analyze the news that we are being given in context in different ways. And I think one of the responses to some of these issues should involve helping people, developing capabilities to really critically look at the range of news that they are presented, the context, how this is done, and in relation to, an ecosystem of news items and media.
I think that I agree with all y'all effort. And then if we're talking about the PR one, the first thing is like, why was he even hacked? Like, that's an ethical failure of his entire campaign and team. So like, there's like the human failure of like, how did that happen? And then there's Twitter's ethical responsibility. And I feel like that's probably where like, I don't know enough of the technical, how it's going to work, but I feel like that there's also going to be the companies themselves, if they're going to allow, if they're going to need to harness the machine learning. And I don't know if that's going to be possible, but like, why can't the machines identify their own shit, their own work? So like somehow their machines, the deep faking would be harder to actually go through the machines that are running Twitter. I don't know how that would work technically. And then I think that the other thing is like why, you know, it's again, going back to the hack, like as soon as the accounts are compromised, why did it take, you know, so long? It took 12 hours. It just says the night, right? So in 12 hours, there should have been immediate shutdown, just as if there was a fire or a toxic waste dump or a nuclear accident. So somehow like the ethicals are not only just that somebody, and then I would say the other thing is a failure of like computer and programming education. You know, like, I mean, I know this is going to happen, but like, there should be like community like support, so that ideally we won't have people like deciding that they're gonna like just hack into people's accounts. I know that's a little bit naive, but so I'd say that I guess I don't have enough technical information about how AI works, right? Because these feel like more political and regulatory things, and especially because it's explicit about Twitter. Like it just says social media, but then it says it happened on Twitter. So I would say like there's certain things that in terms of the regulation of Twitter that might be more just a code. I hope that makes sense.
So are you saying there should be regulation of Twitter? Did you say that there should be a media blockade? Is that what you said?
Say that what I was saying was that like
you mentioned media
say
blockade.
again?
You mentioned media blockade.
No, I didn't say media blockade. I said the regulation of Twitter. So for example, like if, again, it doesn't say which country this is in, but like there is ideally we would be able to have more democratic control over these large corporations that have, you know, sort of taken over the quote public sphere. You know, but that again is very contextual to the different countries you're talking about, right? So like I don't know what the solution is, but in terms of like taking down fake posts, like that is something that can be part of the corporate community guidelines or participation. You don't, you know, and I think we're seeing that, right? You don't get to participate in this way if you violate this code of conduct. And in this scenario, these are failures first on, you know, of the fact that he's even allowed to be hacked. And I know that we're going to continue to be hacked, but it's not talking about a data leak. And it's like his account was hacked, and like that is a design failure and also a social failure. And then in terms of taking down something, that's something that humans have control over. And then what I was trying to say was like that there's not going to be the ability of humans to monitor all the deep fakes. So like, I don't know where the ethical line is going to be, but it seems like if we're able to have the machines make the deep fakes, I would hope we could get the machines to identify the deep fakes down the road. I don't think it's there yet. Does that answer your question? I wasn't saying media blockade. I don't know if I'm talking really fast because I'm caffeinated.
That would have helped. I also have patchy internet, but actually to your question, there are a lot of countries that are taking legislation in their own hands when it comes to regulation. India is one of them. We recently came out with an revised IT rules. Australia recently did. So there are a lot of people who are actually taking regulation based on their social and cultural context. So thank you so much for your comments. Yeah, and I'll leave it open, everyone. We have around 10 more minutes. I was thinking, do we have, John, how long do we have? We started at what time exactly? We do have some time. So anyone else who has any comments, please go ahead. I'm not sure about how much time we have left.
So
Kay, if you have anything, or Clara or Shanish, please go ahead.
Can we dig into the mental health scenario? Like
yeah,
initially,
I love that. Sure. Go ahead.
I was having a hard time identify the ethics issues because the case is very positively framed. Like it says, you know, trusted resources, you know, sophisticated and mature set of safety measures informed by the experience of mental health professionals. So on the first glance, I read it as a very positive example with very few ethical questions, but now I had a chance to think about it. So in mental health, there's a difference between like the clinicians who kind of treat the issues as medical problem and the actual people suffering mental health, and there's kind of all kinds of survivor groups, decades ago, at least in Canada, people used to be put in institutions, and that was dragged by the mental professionals. So if the AI system is constructed by the professionals, that sometimes becomes a problem for the individuals with mental health issues. It's like in the disability community, they say nothing about us without us. And I'm not seeing that piece reflected here, where it would say, hey, this was built on consulting with the community of people who are experiencing mental health issues. It's framed more as coming from the professional. So that can be an ethical issue, that when the professionals construct a system, and this applies to like technology professionals as well as mental health professionals, and it's not coming bottom up from the user. The needs are not coming bottom up from the user. You develop a system that is driven top down on a particular set of interests always, right? So that's maybe the issue I'm identifying in the mental health, kind of that the AI system is based more on professional opinion than end user community.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there someone who said something on the chat?
I was just appreciating what Ishnish was saying about, this expression of nothing about us without us. And I was actually wondering, Brenna, I felt like the point that Ishnish is making is ultimately fundamentally a question of power. And I feel that relates to what you and Clara were saying around, in a way, I was trying to summarize them with these two sort of like off yellow Post-it notes, but kind of thinking about how essentially the sort of artificial intelligence ethical questions are kind of compounding traditional ethical questions, and that it's fundamentally sort of amplifying traditional questions of power structures and relationships between ultimately people, governments, and corporations, and how decisions are ultimately mediated. And I was wondering, how you all felt about that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I totally agree with what Ushni you've just said in terms of what was the process of making this AI and who participated. But I still think that AI is not as cool as we are making it to be. So I would be very sad to be living in a world where mental health issue is dealt purely mediated by a technology which will inevitably always have a number of shortcomings. I believe. I believe you can't get rid of issues such as bias. And even though perhaps, in the pandemic, a sort of chatbot could go some way in providing some support, I would be worried that that would sort of sanction for the AI to replace altogether forms of social interactions that are essential, not just for mental health, I think for all sorts of social issues, but also for social joy. I think for the good things of life, the things that we want to share, and the things that make life rich, because it's unpredictable.
Yeah, I like that. I think echoing that, just like the other things that I read within the ethical things, I see also as like social, not just the AI, like, the fact that like the term rigorous online engagements on university, like, I feel like that also is questionable. Like, what is the, who's deciding what is determining rigor and what is determining like, like effective learning. And, that unto itself, we were having huge problems in academia with student mental health before COVID. It was just really not discussed as much, but frontline workers of mental health are often adjunct professors and university people, right? So like, there's like that kind of component of like, why is it so rigorous that it's taking this massive toll, even regardless of this isolation? And then, I think that the one part at the end where it's like the addressing the needs of vulnerable user populations at the fraction of cost of any other solution. It goes back to like, why is the cost part of the equation? Like that, who is running this AI or this chatbot is unclear to me. Is it a public service? Is it part of a national health program? Is it a for-profit like therapies bot? Those are kind of variables that are unclear, but also have a whole host of ethical problems. It's so hard to like think and watch all the little things move on the Miro. Like it's like
just switching back to the deepfake politician scenario. Anybody know if people are regulating deepfakes in any way? Like I know as you mentioned kind of regulation of social media, which I don't think of as the same thing. Like I would think deepfakes are really, really hard to regulate in terms of yeah, the only things I've heard is because a lot of deepfake technology was used is used in pornography, like they put the face of a famous actress on a different body and so on and so on. I've heard a little bit on people trying to regulate that piece, but I have not come across any examples where there people or jurisdictions are trying to regulate deepfakes in terms of politics.
I just put in the chat on this one. I want to see this lecture. Well, Lilian is in my university, so she's a researcher, and she's exactly looking into the challenges of regulating the fakes, and that's a link to her lecture, which I really enjoyed.
Okay, we have less than a minute actually at the moment, but this has been great. Thank you so much. One of our inspirations from going ahead with the deepfake scenario was the one that flew around with Tom Cruise playing golf and the missing coin. So we really thought that was very edgy, and yeah, we were able to get great conversation of it. So thank you so much. And with regards to the mental health aspect, we kept it ambiguous, and the endpoint was basically that mental health is so expensive, especially in countries like Global South, where they don't accommodate the cost. So the whole idea we were coming from is that it's cheaper than talking to a person. That was just, I hope if that makes it clear. But thank you so much, everyone. This has been great.
And the banking scenario probably exists in real life somewhere, I'm sure.
It does.
Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone.
You're back.
Welcome back. So I think we missed one group still. I see here.
We are missing John. Maybe John left and he's going to join back.
No, John is here.
I see. Okay.
So good. Thank you very much. I hope the discussion, I'm sure discussion was good in the subgroup. There is no reason why not. It's 4:45. Normally we should close the session now, also considering that the room may be used by the next session. But I'd like a very short feedback from your groups. Maybe if you could give us a short insight in what you discussed, that would be fantastic before we close. So I would ask in the first group who could give us a snapshot.
So who is the first group, Antoine?
Okay, I had room number 1, so for me it was room number 1, 2, 3. So Manon, you spoke first, so you're
okay.
you go.
okay, to have a short feedback. Thank you for those who were in my room for the great input. So we had a first round actually of questions and reactions on the whole process of With Internet, because we didn't have a lot of details in plenary, so it was also a good occasion for that. And then going to the scenarios, so we didn't have time to discuss in depth the first scenarios, the banking scenarios. But on the first scenario, so the issue, ethical issue we raised on the deepfake scenarios were mostly related to lack of regulation and the need for a regulation framework. Also that this kind of situation, the lack of the lack of regulation framework creates a lack of trust. So it's a political issue. And also we have a big transparency issue there. And another one was the education issues and the fact that not everyone has the right filter in a way to have a comprehensive understanding and a full understanding of what they read online. So I hope that sum up well what we said on the first scenarios. Sorry for the shortened sum up. And on the mental health issue, it was also interesting because it was more the positive, in a way, ethical issues that were raised. So in this situation, we really see that there is AI can also create a positive effect on mental health and a community belonging effect in a way. So that was, let's say, the most the quick sum up of the discussion. I hope it's.
Thank you, Manon.
Thank
you, Manon. I would go over to the second group, but here I have to ask for your help. Who moderated and could give us a wrap up?
Which was the number? I didn't realize my own breakout number. Was that me?
So it's for you. So let's go join your group, and then that's a proceeding like that.
Eileen, would you like to work on it? Because you haven't had the chance to participate neither.
Yeah, I can. I can add some notes and then you continue. Okay, so we decided to change a little bit the approach, and we started to discuss about the topics that are within these scenarios. So we started to speak about deepfake. And we have a very interesting conversation with participants on how we can approach this topic to citizens. And it was suggested, for example, to explain more flexible models in a way that people can feel that they own their data and they know what is going to happen with that. It was a remark about to take into consideration diversity and the context and the different cultures. And also, well, we have a very strong input about misinformation, how we can approach the propaganda issue in this topic. And so, Jean, you can continue.
Thank you.
Yes, essentially, just to pile up on that, we had some quite very interesting conversation that leaned much more interested on the technical side. I think if there was technical people in the room, all of them fell into my room, and so the dynamic was a little bit different. It was very, very interesting, and we just couldn't really go as deep as we would have wanted because of the constraints of the scenarios. But definitely, it was a very interesting, and we were able to take some notes about recommendations on how to improve the consultation for next session. So there was some good outputs out of it.
Thank you very much, Jean. Now I'll turn to the third and last group. Who wants to volunteer to
John,
report?
you want to go first, and I then go, and then I'll fill in with Ms.
Sure. So, I mean, I think anything that Rashi and I are going to say is really just building on the beautiful ideas we got from Clara and Brenna, Kay, and Ushnish from the group. So thank you all for the really active participation. So the idea is really, I mean, I think at least what I picked up on was this notion that that artificial intelligence is really magnifying traditional ethical issues that already exist in society and traditional power relationships in society between people, government, and corporations, for example. That was elevated in several of the scenarios. And And this brought up a really beautiful point from Ushnish, from the disability community of nothing for us without us, and or nothing about us without us, rather. And the idea really that collective intelligence and other forms of collective decision making could be really usefully applied to sort of unpacking some of these ethical issues related to artificial intelligence, but also the associated ethical issues that are related to, for example, the relationship between corporates and educational institutions, for example, on the banking example and otherwise. So thank you all again for the great conversation in the group. Rashi?
I think we had good animated conversations from, I think we spent the most time in the banking sector, and a lot of the comments were around how oblivious the actual person is when it comes to where the information is going. There were some positive comments around mental health, but there was also the question of why mental health is so expensive. There was some good animated conversations around how it's difficult to get rid of something like a bias, and how to actually get rid of deep fakes from a technical perspective. I think that's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Maybe one word before we close. It is for us on the plan to go on working with artificial intelligence and deliberative democracy. So it's the beginning, and we got the message from participants that we need much more discussion on that. So we have done just a piece of that in the past hour, but it's not over, of course, and it's on our agenda and one of our priority to go on working with that. So thank you very much for your contributions. I wish you a very good further participation at the MozFest, and see you soon. Maybe for some of us in real at some point. I hope so. And otherwise, again, online. Thank you very much. Yes, from a last comment, as output of that session, we will produce a blog documentation and a blog text, so you can also share the results of that session. Thank you very much, all of you, and I hope to see you soon.
John, if you could also go ahead.